Most people who watch the Sand Pebbles see a beautiful, slow-burning epic about an American sailor stuck in 1920s China who just wants to be left alone. That's true, but there's a whole other layer most people completely miss. Stories behind the camera, conflicts nobody talks about, decisions that change the film forever. Some of these are going to genuinely surprise you. Let's get into it. Steve McQueen almost said no. McQueen didn't casually accept this role. He agonized over it for weeks, reading the script multiple times, putting it down, picking it back up, driving everyone around him crazy with indecision. What finally convinced him was one thing: the character's isolation. Jake Holman is a man who just wants to be left alone to work on his engine, and McQueen, who was famously private and famously difficult with people, understood that feeling on a deeply personal level. He later said Holman was the character he identified with more than almost any other he ever played. And honestly, watching the film, you believe him completely. The shoot lasted almost a year. The plan was a manageable international shoot across a few months. What actually happened was 10 months of principal photography across Taiwan and Hong Kong. An almost unheard of schedule even by 1960s epic standards. Tropical heat, monsoon conditions, logistical chaos, and the physical demands of recreating 1920s China on actual location turned a challenging production into something the crew described as a genuine endurance test. By the time it wrapped, everyone had been living out of suitcases in Asia for nearly a year. Relationships had frayed, tempers were short, and the exhaustion you feel watching certain scenes, that's real. McQueen's marriage was falling apart on location while McQueen was in Taiwan giving the performance of his life. His marriage to actress Neil Adams was quietly disintegrating. His extended absence, his restlessness, and the complications of his personal life were creating a domestic situation that people close to him could see clearly even if the public couldn't. McQueen had always been a complicated husband, magnetic and loving, but also deeply selfish and incapable of settled domesticity. And the isolation of this shoot accelerated tensions that had been building for years. That quality you see in his performance, of a man carrying something painful beneath his composure, that wasn't entirely acting. The gunboat was actually real. Here's something most people don't know. The USS San Pablo, the aging gunboat at the center of the entire film, was not a studio construction or a dressed-up prop. It was an actual working vessel, sourced and refitted by the production to function as both a filming location and a real boat on the rivers of Taiwan. Robert Wise wanted the ship's world to feel genuinely physical. The claustrophobic engine room, the cramped decks, the bridge, and a real ship delivered that in a way no constructed set could. It also made every single day of filming on it a logistical challenge that the crew did not always find charming. The film was a deliberate Vietnam allegory. This is one casual viewer's miss, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. The Sand Pebbles came out in December 1966, right in the middle of Vietnam escalating toward the levels that would define the late 1960s. And the story it tells: American military personnel stationed in a country they don't understand, serving a mission whose purpose they increasingly question, unable to extract themselves from a situation that ends in tragedy, was absolutely understood by audiences as a commentary on Vietnam. Wise and screenwriter Robert Anderson knew exactly what they were doing. The parallel was intentional, and they made no effort to hide it. Candace Bergen was a teenager with zero experience, and this next one is wild. Candace Bergen, who plays the idealistic missionary Shirley Eckert, was 19 years old when she was cast, barely out of high school, with virtually no professional acting experience. She's stepping into a major international production opposite one of the biggest movie stars in the world, directed by one of the most respected directors in Hollywood, on location in Taiwan. By her own account, it was genuinely overwhelming. What's remarkable is that her inexperience is almost completely invisible on screen. Her natural quality of earnest, fragile idealism fit the character so perfectly that more polished acting might actually have made it worse. McQueen actually learned the engine work. Jake Holman's entire identity is built around his relationship with the ship's engine, a man who understands machinery the way others understand language, and McQueen's commitment to making that feel authentic meant actually learning the mechanical work the character performs on screen. This was completely in character for McQueen, who had a genuine lifelong passion for engines. The motorcycle and car racing that gave his studio regular anxiety attacks came from the same place. Watch the engine room scenes, and you'll see a man whose hands actually know what they're doing. No acting technique produces that. Only real knowledge does. Oscar nominations. 0 wins. Here's one that still surprises people. The Sand Pebbles received 8 Academy Award nominations. Best Picture, Best Actor for McQueen, Best Supporting Actor for Attenborough, and won exactly none of them. The ceremony going to a man for all seasons instead. McQueen's nomination was his first and only Oscar nomination in his entire career. The performance he gave, Jake Holman, exhausted and isolated and finally broken by a world that won't leave him alone, is by almost universal consensus the greatest work he ever did. And the Academy passed on it. Film lovers still argue about that one. The novel's author died before the film released. Richard McKenna, the former Navy sailor who spent years writing this novel while working as a machinist, drawing on his own experience in China in the 1920s, died in November 1964, more than 2 years before the film reached theaters. He never knew about the 8 Oscar nominations. He never saw how audiences responded to the story he had lived and then spent years finding the words for. His novel had already been published and celebrated before he died, but the scale of what the film became, that was something he never got to witness. That one sits with you. McQueen fought for his own death, seeing the ending. Holman shot down in a moment of quiet resignation rather than heroic sacrifice. Wasn't the only option on the table. McQueen was deeply involved in discussions about how his character should die, having developed such a thorough identification with Holman that he felt qualified to argue for specific choices. His position was simple. The death needed to feel inevitable, not dramatic. Not a hero's end, but the logical conclusion of a man who never found his place in the world he was given. The ending that exists is exactly what McQueen argued for, and it's the reason the film stays with you long after it's over. The title was almost changed in the months before release. Fox had serious internal discussions about whether The Sand Pebbles was the right title for a major awards contender. Some voices arguing it was too quiet, too oblique, not dramatic enough to sell a film of this scale. The title comes directly from the novel, referring to the nickname the sailors gave themselves. Robert Wise and the producers pushed back and kept it, and that understated title, which asks nothing of you and promises nothing spectacular, turned out to be exactly right for a film that operates the same way. It's still McQueen's most overlooked masterpiece 50 years later. The Sand Pebbles sits in a strange place in cultural memory. Universally respected by people who've seen it, consistently ranked among the finest American films of the 1960s, and somehow never achieving the mainstream recognition of Bullitt or The Great Escape or even The Thomas Crown Affair. McQueen's performance here is greater than any of those. But the quality that makes it great, its refusal to entertain you, its insistence on being felt rather than enjoyed, is the same quality that's kept it from the audience it deserves. Watch it, then watch it again. You'll understand. 12 facts about a film that most people haven't seen, and almost everyone who has seen it has never fully forgotten. If any of these surprised you or made you want to go back and rewatch it with different eyes, let us know in the comments. Hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, because we go deep on the films that actually deserve it every single week, and the next one is already waiting. The Sand Pebbles that most people have never heard, and honestly, we barely scratched the surface of what this film contains. This is a movie that was made under impossible conditions by people who were physically exhausted, personally broken, and professionally stretched to their absolute limits. And somehow, out of all of that difficulty and chaos and pain, they made something genuinely great. That doesn't happen often, and when it does, it deserves to be talked about. If any of these facts surprised you, if any of them changed how you see the film or made you want to experience it for the first time, drop a comment below and tell us which one hit hardest, because those conversations are exactly why we do this. And if you're the kind of person who loves going deeper on the films that actually deserve the attention, the ones history half forgot and critics underserved and audiences never quite found in the numbers they should have, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because we find these stories every single week, and the next one is already coming for you.